The Kansas City Chiefs are 4-0, but the injuries just keep piling on offense for the champs. And some latest injury news, Rashee Rice expected to miss some time after suffering a knee injury on that play right there. You see him getting carted off of the field in that win over the Chargers. There are reports out there fearing that it could be a torn ACL for Rice. Andy Reid was asked about it today. Didn't really have much to say, just saying, hey, he's not going to be available next week for us as we play the Saints on Monday Night Football. Just one of many notable Week 4 injuries that we're monitoring here on CBS Sports HQ. AR, Colts QB dealing with a hip injury, as well as Jonathan Taylor. That's an ankle injury. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, both dealing with injuries. Those are some big blows for the Cowboys. Christian Watson, another one out for the Packers. And Josh Hines-Allen, that is a huge injury loss for the Jags defense. They're dealing with a concussion. Let's welcome in our injury expert, Marty Jaramillo, and we're going to start with the Chiefs and Rashee Rice. There is a report out there, Marty, that they're fearing it is a torn ACL. If it is that for longevity purposes, what is the timeline looking like? I know Andy Reid was asked about it a little bit earlier today and didn't really give us much information, but when it comes to Rice, what is that looking like for when he can come back, if it is the worst that we're hearing out there?
Well, Jacqueline, the injuries are piling up across the NFL with 4 teams with the bye week this week. It's going to be a much-needed rest and recovery for all those teams. Listen, Rashee Rice, what an unfortunate play. He actually collided with Mahomes, hyperextending his knee, and the replay was very clear. It appears to be an ACL, season-ending ACL injury. Now, is it season-ending? Yes. Is it career-ending? No. That's a really important concept. The ACL, yes, is the main stabilizing ligament of the knee, and recovery time is about 8 to 10 months. Now, there's still many tests being done and has not been officially confirmed, but we can at least, with a good amount of education, know that we are fearing the worst. At 8 to 10 month recovery, what does that mean? Well, in May, when the team has OTAs, he's going to be able to participate in most of his OTAs. And he has a very small injury history. Very healthy in college, very healthy in the NFL. I expect him to be ready not only for OTAs, but camp, and then have a very effective next season because he just stays healthy.
Yeah, we saw the list of injuries there for the Chiefs certainly piling up. Not only Rashee Rice, but Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco as well. We showed the list earlier with all the Week 4 injuries. Christian Watson was on there. He's dealing with an ankle injury and that loss to Minnesota. Reports are saying that it's a high ankle sprain, that he could be heading to IR, but what's the best case scenario for him, Marty?
You know, Christian Watson, unfortunately, often injured. Christian Watson is looking to be on his second consecutive season on the IR, having missed, I think it was 10 games last season with a hamstring. So as we know, high ankle sprains are stubborn. They can take time. They're all over the map. And I expect him to miss multiple weeks with this injury. And the issue is that even though he's missing multiple weeks, on replay, this high ankle sprain is the best case scenario because both his ankle and his knee were vulnerable during that tackle.
So you mentioned Christian Watson, someone who's unfortunately familiar with injuries, and so is Anthony Richardson. Only played about 4 games last year for a completely different injury. Now he's dealing with a hip injury, a hip pointer injury to be specific, after that win over the Steelers. He said he was feeling sore, but felt he would be okay after that game. Marty, walk us through the specifics, what a hip pointer injury is, how it's going to affect him in the recovery time there for AR.
You know, it's only his second season. And he's been on our injury list way too often. So the hip pointer, also famously known as the Bo Jackson injury, is a hard impact at the side of the hip where the side glute muscle and also the pelvic bone. It can be a severe contusion with severe bruising, severe spasm, and a lot of weakness on that leg. Early signs, and reports say that it's going to be on the minor side, which is great. He was very enthusiastic and very confident that he'll be able to play. So yes, he will be day to day. I expect him to play, but really the pain and spasm set in not today, tomorrow and Wednesday, which can all affect mobility. Still expect him to play. So short term, not an issue. Do I have long-term concerns for his longevity? Yes, and I bet you the Colts do as well.
All right, unfortunately, some more Colts injury news. We're talking about Jonathan Taylor dealing with a high ankle sprain. I know you're expecting AR to give it a go for week 5, but what is the likelihood that we're going to see Jonathan Taylor be out there ready to suit up against the Jags?
You know, to open his 5th season, we saw glimpses of when he won the rushing title back in 2021. Now, here's the issue. That high ankle sprain, stubborn at times, but are we worried for the long-term concern of his ankle? He re-aggravated the same ankle that he had surgery on after the 21-22 season. Now, he had what's known as a tightrope procedure, which is a stabilizing procedure for high ankle sprains. So am I worried long-term? I'm actually not. Yes, he re-injured that right ankle that had surgery, but the high ankle sprain surgery, the tightrope procedure, is one of the few surgeries that actually can give a preventative measure, can actually prevent further injuries, because they put this very tight suture material into the ankle that actually adds like a 2nd and 3rd ligament to give stability. Early reports, this is a mild high ankle sprain. Let's call it a re-aggravation of the surgery. I expect him to be week to week. I actually expect him to play. So not concerned about the right ankle. I might actually have some concerns with the left ankle.
Oh, okay. So, but kind of good news for the Colts between AR and Jonathan Taylor, expected to play in week 5. That's what you're thinking. Let's talk about a pair of injuries for the Cowboys. Micah Parsons also dealing with an ankle injury, a high ankle sprain. His timetable to return is still a little bit iffy, but what are your expectations for Micah?
Can you believe the 2 edge rushers for the Cowboys? And unbelievable, bad luck for the Cowboys. They could use a little bit of luck. You know, Micah Parsons sustained an ankle injury against the Giants, but the MRI confirmed to be a high ankle injury. Also all over the place. I expected him to miss between 2 and 4 weeks. Not so concerned based on his position. He doesn't have to do extreme amounts of lateral movement like a wide receiver or running back. So I do expect it to be on the shorter side, and that bye week coming in week 7 is going to be a welcome rest and recovery for him as well.
Now let's talk about DeMarcus Lawrence, likely heading to IR with a Liz Frank injury. It's an injury that the Cowboys are familiar with, unfortunately, from players in the past. But is this a lengthy recovery time, Marty? Walk us through it.
Unfortunately, D-Law injury is worse than Micah Parsons. He sustained what's known as a Liz Frank sprain or a midfoot sprain. Just a little show and tell here, right here where the long bones meet the small bones of the foot. A lot of ligaments that create a lot of stability and support for that foot. Now, oftentimes when those ligaments tear, the small bones could be misplaced or displaced, causing a need for surgery. The good news is the bones are in line, no displacement, and he will not require surgery. But it's still a long-term recovery. He will enter the injury reserve list, expects to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Good news, no surgery, but still a long recovery, a very painful injury. As you remember, Chet Holmgren from the OKC Thunder, he also had the same injury but required surgery at the beginning of his rookie season. Now, both Micah as well as D-Law are getting second opinions just in case there's any way to accelerate their healing.
Yeah, and to your point, DeMarcus Lawrence expected to be reevaluated in the next 4 weeks. Marty Jaramillo, we certainly appreciated going down the unfortunately long list of notable injuries around the NFL that we're already seeing in week 4. Always good to see you, Marty, and make sure you stay locked in to CBS Sports HQ all season long. We got you covered with everything you need to know that's happening in the NFL, whether it's news, highlights, scores. We got you covered right here on HQ.